I'm trying to be more understanding of my friends in the Republican Party and the MAGA crowd. I know I've been harsh and angry before, and I do believe some things that have happened have been appropriate causes for anger. But still, our country doesn't need more harsh, angry people. That approach hasn't solved anything yet, and it certainly hasn't been good for me personally either. So, by God's grace, I'm trying to be better. To my friends who have supported the Republican Party up to this point, although we disagree strongly, I do believe that most of you have good intentions, and I do understand where you're coming from. Whenever it was that you first started paying attention to politics, however old you are, whenever you got into it, you sided with the Republicans for good reasons. Maybe due to your religious convictions, or because they were the party of moral order, or because of economic concerns. I get it, and I'll tell you why I get it. Because I was the same. I'm a Bible believing Christian. I was raised in the Bible Belt. A lot of people of my generation have walked away from the church. That's kind of a different topic. But I am still very much a Christian and a churchgoer. Growing up, I leaned conservative too. I turned 18 in 2008, and I voted for John McCain that fall. I voted for Mitt Romney in 2012. I graduated from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, twice actually. 10 years ago today, in 2016, I would have still called myself a conservative. And even today, now in 2026, I am still adamantly pro-life. I agree with conservatives on at least a few issues there. Even though I parted ways with the Republicans, I have not sided with the Democrats. I too have concerns about their party due to my faith convictions, and I've still never voted for a Democrat in my life. I've voted third party at the presidential level since 2016. So yes, when it comes to growing up conservative and Republican, I've been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. So here's the question I'd like you to ask yourself, and please do think about it honestly. Why are so many people like me leaving the Republican Party? Because you know I'm not the only one. You've seen many others cut ties with MAGA too, from your friend groups and family members to even political figures like Mitt Romney, Tucker Carlson, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who were on that side and now have spoken out against it. Why are so many people like me, with my faith and my values and my upbringing, breaking away from the MAGA movement and the Republican Party in recent years? I'll tell you why. It's because the party has first moved away from us. We didn't walk away from the party. The party betrayed and abandoned us. Think about it. Again, I'm assuming that you have good intentions for joining, or you had when you first joined. You signed up for Christian values, and now you've got a foul-mouthed felon and serial rapist running the show. You signed up for moral order and patriotism, but instead, now you've got government agents killing peaceful American citizens in the streets. You signed up for a better economy, but now we've got a war with Iran hiking up gas prices. You signed up for draining the swamp, but now you've got the president conspiring to cover up official files because they show that he raped children. And you may have signed up for ending abortion, but Trump actually increased funding for Planned Parenthood during his first term. This was reported by pro-life conservative organization Live Action, as well as by major news sources like the Washington Post. And in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision, he said that he thought abortion should be left up to the states. And with different states making their own laws about abortion, overall abortions have actually increased since 2022. I could go on. My point is, this is not what you signed up for. I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt and believe that you joined with the Republicans for good reasons initially. But if you did, you've got to take a good hard look at things as they currently stand and honestly admit that this is not what you signed up for. The Republican Party has betrayed you and your values. It is not the party you thought it was when you first joined. Maybe it's changed drastically, or maybe it never really was who you thought it was, but it just presented its best side to you to get you on board, and now you're seeing its true colors. That's not really the point of my talk today. Maybe it's changed, or maybe it always was this way, but in either case, this is not the party you thought you were joining. And yes, I understand why many have stayed so long. It is very hard to leave behind the communities and the tribes you've been part of. It's been hard for me too. Change is difficult and painful. And it's often easier to just pretend things are the same as they always have been than to acknowledge the very real changes happening all around us. I have lost friends for standing for my convictions. Again, I've been angry about it before, and some of that has been on me, but nonetheless, I've lost friends for standing for my convictions. My family had to leave a church last year, in part because of leadership stances on political and moral issues like these. It is easy and comfortable to stay with our own tribe and keep telling ourselves the right narratives so that we fit in and we don't rock the boat and just do what we've always done. It is very hard to go against the grain, to speak up, and to leave the tribes we've been a part of. I sympathize with you. I know it is hard, but sometimes it's necessary, and I submit and ask you to consider that this is one of those times. Honestly, those of you who have stayed this long are like the women trapped in an abusive relationship. Your boyfriend is cheating on you, beating you, verbally and physically abusing you, and everything like that. But you're saying, it's really no big deal, or I know he has a good heart, or he really loves me, or maybe this is just how all guys act, this is normal. You're making excuses for the abuser, maybe because you're scared of leaving, but in doing so, you're really just enabling his behavior, when what you need to do is to leave him immediately. Get help and get support in order to leave as needed, but you need to pack your bags and move out and hold him accountable for his abusive behavior. It's the only way things can even begin to get better. And I do not make that illustration lightly. My wife and I have been helping out a friend and her baby who had to flee from an abusive relationship. They've been staying with us for a little while. And I understand this is a serious thing. Thankfully, our friend actually did flee and get out instead of staying and enabling the abuser, making excuses for their behavior and such like that, like some people sadly have done in these relationships. And a lot of people are still doing that for our president too, making excuses and trying to downplay what he's actually done and parroting back the same narratives when he and his administration have shown their true colors time and time again now. When what you really need to do is hold them accountable and leave and not give them your loyalty or your life any longer. And then if you leave, will things get better? It looks bad now. It does. But I admit it's possible. If an abuser really wants to change, then they have to first admit that they have a problem, go to therapy and do the hard work, such like that. And then maybe, after some time and a whole lot of growth, they could be capable of having a healthy relationship again. Similarly, the values and issues that parties have stood for have shifted over the course of decades. I don't have time to go into it now, but look at the history of the Republican Party and the moral majority and such over the last 50 years. It hasn't always been what it is today, or it hasn't always stood for the issues it has today, even before 50 years ago. And if you go look further back in history, Republicans stood for different issues. So maybe in 2 or 3 decades, maybe in my lifetime, the Republican Party could once again stand for moral values or Christian faith. I admit it's possible, and I hope it can happen and will. But today, it doesn't. Today it stands for corruption, selfishness, and hatred. And you need to get out now. The only way it can even begin to get better is for people to stop making excuses and justifying the party and the president, but to start holding them accountable instead. And look, I'm not asking you to become a Democrat or a liberal. I am not a Democrat or a liberal. People need to realize we have more than 2 options in this country, and you don't have to go to one side with complete loyalty just because you don't like the other side. And I'm not going to try to argue you into agreement. I'm not a Democrat or a liberal. I'm not going to try to argue you into agreement. But I am asking you to honestly, seriously consider the possibility that this is not what you signed up for. That the Republican Party has moved far, far afield from whatever values first drew you to it. Ask yourself if that's true, be honest, and then ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Thank you for listening.